Okay, part two of the worst of. Number 5, another movie that I actually reviewed, Dragon Ball Evolution. Why on earth does this have Dragon Ball : Evolution? It's like Street Fighter : Legend of Chun-Li, and then Transformers : Revenge of the Fallen. Honestly, any movie with a colon in it kind of sucked this year. I was a little bit partial to G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra. I didn't hate that movie. I actually enjoyed it somewhat. But otherwise, if you have a colon, you're doomed. This movie was bleh. I mean, it's a kid's movie, I guess. I mean, parts of it seem like it's obviously a kid's movie. It seems like it was trying to emulate Speed Racer, which, I mean, financially, that's a death sentence, but I love Speed Racer. This movie just has no sense of fun whatsoever. Speed Racer was immensely fun. The action scenes in this, they're horrible. I mean, the whole movie is just, it's like watching one of the movies that Nostalgia Critic would review. Only I'm nowhere near as witty as him, so I can't, give you a rundown of it. But it is really terrible. There's a review of it up as well, so I'm not going to spend any more time on it. Pretty much just bad all around. Number 4. Okay, this movie, I don't even know where to begin with. Richard Kelly's The Box. This movie is an assault on logic. This movie is the kind of movie that you would expect M. Night Shyamalan to make nowadays. And I'm not a logistics or scientist guy, and I'm not this overly analytical mind either. I'm an English major, I'm not going to do that kind of thing in terms of literalness. But this movie is a science fiction movie, and the plot requires some cohesiveness. It doesn't. I mean, it makes no sense at all. The ending is one of the worst endings I've ever seen in a movie, period. And the rest of the movie is just this really bad attempt to be a Twilight Zone episode. I mean, it is based off of a short story that was made into a Twilight Zone episode. But the performances, I mean, immediately, as soon as I heard Cameron Diaz's voice, I thought, fuck, this is going to be painful. Because it is. It's painful. Okay, I just can't get over the fact that Richard Kelly made this movie. I loved Donnie Darko, and I really enjoyed Southland Tales. Okay, here's a good metaphor for you. Or figure of speech, sorry. Donnie Darko was a breathtaking masterpiece. Southland Tales is a breathtaking disaster. The Box is just a mind-raping disaster. It is terrible in all senses of the word. And I cannot fathom anybody enjoying this movie. Well, apparently Roger Ebert enjoyed this movie, at least somewhat. But you know what? Forget him. He gets paid for this. I don't. So, I'm on YouTube. What do I know, Number 3. Oh, speaking of Roger Ebert, this is a movie that he put on his top 10 of the year. Fuck that. Number 3 is knowing this movie is shit on a fucking stick. This movie is like, again, it's another movie I would think, wow, M. Night Shyamalan should have directed this, but instead, it's Alex Proyas, the guy who directed I, Robot, The Crow, and Dark City. Some actual good movies. In fact, The Crow is one of my all-time favorite movies. But he made that movie 15 years ago. Now, he kind of gets thrown these shitty screenplays. And visually, it's not bad until the CG kicks in. And then you think, wow, they really needed to spend more time on this. I mean, the scenes are intense, but the CG is awful. And honestly, I hate to be a spoiler, but there is a scene in the movie where a kid sees like hundreds of animals on a fire running through the forest. That scene was honestly the funniest moment of any movie this year. It looks so fake, and the setup is so cheesy. I mean, it's like, think of the funniest parody of the scene where the blood is like pouring through the hallway in The Shining. I mean, that's the setup essentially. But this, it's just animals on fire. And I know that it shouldn't be funny, but, well, it is. In fact, it's hilarious. Nick Cage actually isn't that bad in the movie, but the movie itself is terrible, and he just continues to show that he does not know how to find a good movie. Now, I haven't seen Bad Lieutenant, and I've heard his performance is purposely over the top, but it matches the movie. And I'm actually looking forward to Kick-Ass that comes out in April, I think, and he has a role in that. So, you know, he looks to be on the up and up. Number 2 is the only straight-to-video movie I put on this list. I purposely took out a couple movies. I took out Perkins 14, which was one of the 2 movies from this year's After Dark Horror Fest I saw, pretty much because I didn't know whether to put it in this list, because technically the After Dark Horror Fest movies for this year premiered the year before. And so I kind of took it off there, and also because it was pretty much straight to video. And then Mega Shark vs. Giant Octopus I didn't put on this list, nor the Asylum's ripoff of Paranormal Activity that I saw, Paranormal Entity, pretty much because they're Asylum movies, and they would be number 1 and number 2 if I had put them on this list, and that's no fun. So, number 2, though, I've decided is going, even though it's straight to video, I have to put it on the list anyway. That's S. Darko. And S. Darko, it seems any movie connected with Richard Kelly this year also kind of sucks. Colons and Richard Kelly. If you have a colon in your title, and if you're at all connected to Richard Kelly, you know what? You get thrown on this list. S. Darko is about as terrible as a sequel can get. It's unnecessary to the core. It has almost nothing to do with the first movie. In fact, it spits on the grave of the original movie. This time around, we've got Davy Chase, who most people remember as being the little girl in The Ring. She is Donnie Darko's sister, Samantha. And, this is 10 years or 15 years or, I don't know, something years after the first one. And it's in the 90s now. And so now we've got these sort of 90s cliches thrown around, 90s references, I guess. And the whole movie takes away all the interesting parts that Donnie Darko had. It's, I don't know. I mean, the only good part of this movie is that Davy Chase is actually pretty hot, and she kind of walks around in pajamas or underwear the whole movie because she's, sleepwalking. So, that's okay, I guess. But, pretty much the movie has almost nothing in common with the original. Alright, I've got a minute and a half to get in the number 1, and I'm going to go as fast as I can for this. But this is the shit stopper. This is the fucking worst movie of the year. And I know it has fans. So if I piss you off, you deserve it. Number 1 is Jennifer's Body. This movie, I just can't understand why anybody would like this movie. This movie has the worst dialogue of any movie I've ever heard. And yes, it's similar to Juno, but in Juno, only Juno really talks that way. In this, every fucking buddy talks that way, and it's exaggerated times 10. Diablo Cody just decided that she was going to write the dialogue and just increase it exponentially, I guess, because she thought everyone loved it the first time. But not only that, the movie doesn't know what it wants to be. It fails as being a horror. It fails at being a comedy. It fails at being a psychological evaluation. It fails at being a lesbian fantasy. And it tries to do all of those things and just falls completely in a 10-foot ditch. Okay, I'm out of time. That's the end of my worst of. I will see you tomorrow for my best of. And thank you for listening.